Breaking news. Reports have surfaced that the Trump administration are going to be reintroducing the travel bans that were previously implemented in 2017, but this time it is going to have a much more dramatic effect. It is going to be expanded to include countries that were not previously included, and it is estimated to have much more far-reaching effect than the previous travel ban. What countries were previously included, what countries will now be included that were never included before, and what will be these effects that will be having on immigration, the economies of each country, and overall international relationships. Stay tuned for this valuable content as we dive deeper into this breaking topic. Welcome back to the Next Level Life Hacks, where we take the next steps needed to grow towards our financial freedom and our success. Thank you for clicking on this video when it came into your time feed. I appreciate you watching today. However, 90% of persons that are viewing this video are not yet subscribed. So I ask that you click on that subscribe button so that you can be kept up to date with any financial or immigration matters that might arise, and that you can get some hacks as to how you can further increase your financial wealth for the future. Remember that the only person that is going to take care of the future you is the current you. Now, as I mentioned before, today we're going to be looking at the breaking news that the Trump administration will be re-implemented the travel ban that existed before, but with a much more broader effect. Now, previously in 2017, there was a travel ban implemented on a few countries, and I'm going to name them for you. They were like Cuba, Iran, Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, North Korea, Syria, and Venezuela. So the plan is to reintroduce the travel ban against these countries, but now the plan is to expand it to countries like Afghanistan. Now, this travel ban means that anyone from these countries will be totally and completely barred from entering into the United States. However, there might be certain circumstances that will allow these individuals to enter the country, which I'll get into later on in this video. However, the case with Afghanistan is pretty serious if they are actually added to the list. And I say this because during the war in Afghanistan, there were certain persons that assisted the US military during that war, and they were promised that they would be allowed into the United States for residency and protectionism because they were now seen as traitors to their home country. Now, if it is that Afghanistan is actually added to this list, it will mean that the lives of these Afghanistans who assisted the United States during the war will now be at risk or at jeopardy. And there are several US military members or veterans who are in total disagreement if this is the route that will be taken. There are actually over 200,000 Afghanistans that would fall into this high-risk group, meaning that they are the ones that have assisted the United States and then they are now left exposed. Now, the proposal of this new travel ban includes two risk categories. One is the orange list, which means that the nationals from these countries are totally barred from entering the United States, except for individuals that need to travel for business-related purposes. Then there is the proposed yellow list, which means that these countries have 60 days to respond to the demands of the United States. And if they do not respond within that 60 days, then there will be a full ban implemented against their country. Now, I am assuming that these conditions will include legal immigrants that are coming from their country, whether it be risk of terrorism or it could be drug trafficking that is related to these countries. Now, the big question is this: will this ban affect green card holders or refugees from these countries? Say, for example, there is someone from Venezuela who has a green card in the United States and they visit home for some emergency. Is it that they will not be allowed to re-enter the United States if this ban is actually implemented against Venezuela? What about the refugees that are within the United States from these countries? Is it that they will be deported once these travel bans are implemented? These are the questions that we do not have answers to as yet, but I am sure that as the plan develops and then once it is announced, then we will have a better understanding as to the details of the travel ban. What is sure though, as what happened in 2007, is that it took persons by surprise that they were caught outside of the country, and when they tried to re-enter the country, especially Muslims, then they were denied entry back into the United States. Now, this might be the case again, which means that you have to keep up to date in terms of news release and updates so that you or anyone that you know that is currently outside of the United States from any one of these countries can be kept updated as to the development of this ban. And that is an important reason for you to subscribe again to this channel so that you can be kept up to date on these releases. Now let's look at the ramifications of this travel ban, because it is not only the countries that are being banned that this will affect, it will also have an economic implication and social impact on the United States as well. Now, the last time that this travel ban was implemented in 2017, $4.6 billion in revenue was lost just in 2 years of its implementation. That's a significant blow to the US economy, and it is bound to have a more significant impact on the US economy if it is to be introduced again 8 years after. Now, the businesses that will be most affected are like the hospitality, the airlines, and the overall tourism industry, as you can imagine, because as you might very well know, the United States is a destination point for tourists coming from these countries. Another two areas that are bound to be affected are the technology and the education industry. Why? Because you have persons who are expert in technology coming from these countries, and once they get a work permit and they start working with you in the United States, their contribution to the technology industry is significant with their cutting-edge ideas and their forward thinking. Additionally, universities will have a reduction in their tuition fees from international fees. Now, if you know anything about the tuition fees for universities, you would have known that international students pay significantly more than the domestic students. Therefore, universities will face a dramatic reduction in their tuition fees paid. Additionally, the reason why the tuition fee for domestic students are so much lower is that it is actually being subsidized by the fees paid by international students. Therefore, you might have a situation where domestic students will be expected to pay a higher tuition fee if it is that less amounts are coming in from international tuition fees. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, the implementation of a law does not stand in a vacuum, but it always has far-reaching effects outside of just the policy that is being implemented. And the final concern that is being mentioned is the more strained relationships that are being developed between the United States and the outside countries. The more that you have tariffs and travel bans that are being implemented, the United States does not sit in a vacuum and has to rely on outside allies and also business relationships with these other countries, because we depend on supplies and these diplomatic relationships. Now, if it is that we continue with these travel bans and these tariffs, what will it mean for our future political landscape and the diplomatic relationships across the world? I, however, do not want you to get worried as yet, because there is a 60-day period that this ban is under review before it is implemented. I am also sure that just with other policies that are being implemented by the Trump administration, it will face legal battles in the courthouse because it will be objected to and there will be litigations filed against it. Also, within the Senate, I am sure that there will be different arguments for and against because of the economic implications. So it might be that it might not be introduced when it is that the full picture is being looked at. As usual, I do recommend though that you watch the news releases keenly so that you can be kept up to date with whatever announcement is going to be made regarding the final outcome of this ban. Will it be implemented or will it not be implemented? Time will tell, but make sure you are keeping up to date with the different news release that will come out. Thank you again for spending this time with me. If you know of anyone else that might benefit from this information, please share it with them. And if you found at least one thing to be beneficial from this content, please like, comment, and make sure you subscribe. Thank you for spending this time with me, and see you in the next video.